This video is for the young or ambitious individual who feels stuck on their journey. You don't want to be like everyone else. You're ambitious and you want more from life, yet you don't know what to do with yourself. You know, maybe you're interested in business and you want to become financially free, but you feel trapped or controlled by a system. What should you be working on right now? What should you be doing? Do you get a job? Do you go all in on your business? What do you do? This is going to be quite a vulnerable video. I'm going to talk a bit about my own story and how I've been learning to conquer years of internal conflict and doubt on my own entrepreneurial journey. So I invite you to come and chill for a few minutes, kick back, relax and enjoy the visuals. So a year or so ago, I had dropped out of university. I had given up pursuing a higher qualification. I was broke, anxious, and pretty uncertain about what the future had in store for me. I went into university knowing that it wasn't for me. I went in knowing that I didn't want a corporate career, that this wasn't my true calling, that my heart wasn't really in this. You know, growing up, I never really had many dreams or goals, but I did always want to be an entrepreneur. At least I've always wanted to carve out a path of my own. You know, when I was really young, I used to say that I wanted to be a farmer, as in to own a farm and to tend to animals and crops and whatnot. I admired the idea of waking up and working on my own schedule and on my own accord, working on something tangible, something physical that is mine. You know, I liked the idea of growing seeds and caring to animals and then selling their produce for profit. I don't know, it's kind of funny, but it's quite interesting, I think. It was basically my version of wanting to become an entrepreneur as a really young child before I knew what an entrepreneur was. But regardless, before I saw any real success in business, before I touched any sort of real money, there was something mystical, something vague and far off about the entrepreneurial world. You know, as a teenager, as a kid, I'd see videos, clips of people talking about making millions, tens of thousands every month. And this was adults, teens, even kids my age. And looking back, these people were inflating their success. They were underplaying their struggle. And this was on purpose because they wanted to sell you a fantasy. They wanted people to think that their success was a walk in the park, that they had just nonchalantly struck gold, and were by chance offering to teach you the method behind the paywall of their online community. And some of these influencers, they might have mentioned that their journey was hard or how it took a lot of grind, quote unquote, but that still doesn't mean anything. If you really think about it, what does it mean? Oh, my journey was hard. The average Joe still has no idea what you mean when you say your journey was hard. It's an attempt to build trust, it's an attempt to build honesty, but their tone and their attitude says otherwise. They're really just selling you a fantasy. Overall, all the talk of entrepreneurship was shady, vague, and honestly the secrets just felt gatekept. It felt like there were a select few that knew the secrets to success. They knew the method, but they weren't telling us, they weren't letting it be known. But anyway, despite not having a clear understanding of what entrepreneurship really was and what it really takes to find success in business, I've been on this journey since I was about 14. And you know, growing up, business was never really my main focus. It was a very low effort and a very on and off thing for the longest time. I dabbled in eBay reselling and dropshipping back in 2018. I was selling used phones and clothes at one point. And to give a bit of personal context, I come from an ethnic family, and not only were my family members very against me trying to make money through the internet, but their judgments and disapproval of entrepreneurship ended up damaging my confidence and clouding my vision long term. They wanted me to get a respectable corporate job. They wanted me to go to university, get good grades and do well. And so they didn't like me talking about my alternative aspirations and how I wasn't really interested in any sort of corporate job. You know, the fact that I wasn't doing well at school and how I didn't know what I wanted to be in the future, it scared them. And they saw how unmotivated I was by school. They saw that I was lazy and I messed about, and how I got detentions every week, and how I didn't do my homework. And even though I didn't get good grades, and even though I messed about, I was still plugged into the academic culture. I was going to a high achieving secondary school, and everyone around me was locked in. Everyone was focused on getting good grades and getting into a top university. This was my environment, this was my culture. I didn't want to be plugged into the culture, but I was still being dragged along by my neck. You know, they say you're the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And my high-achieving, pressurized school and academic culture really clouded my vision, and it took me off the path that I had curiosity towards. I had curiosity towards entrepreneurship, but I felt that society had pressurized me. They had forced me to conform and to stay by the book. I did try and commit to entrepreneurship, and it is kind of pathetic to say, but the pressure of doing well in school and committing to building a real career, the constant reminders of having to do this assignment for tomorrow and this application by this deadline, the fact that I was juggling 2 pursuits, it was like being pulled in 2 directions. It was like having an angel on my right shoulder and a devil on my left shoulder. Like having one monkey pull your arm in one direction and then another one pull you in the opposite direction. It wasn't just hard to juggle two pursuits, it was that the two pursuits conflicted with each other. And the fact that my parents and my family members, they didn't believe in me, the fact that they didn't see the vision that I could, it didn't really upset or hurt me immediately, but with time it really clouded my vision. They had really planted the first seeds of doubt in my mind. They made me think that I couldn't do it. You know, my family didn't see me as a hard-working and well-behaved kid like some of my cousins or siblings. They didn't believe in me, and rightfully so to an extent. I wasn't doing well in their world. I wasn't doing well by the metrics of school and report cards, attitude and grades. So therefore, how could I even think to begin to transfer that skill set into the entrepreneurial world? What knowledge, experience or skills do I even have in the first place to transfer into a business venture? And so eventually I ended up absorbing their limiting beliefs as my own. I no longer believed I was good enough to be a successful entrepreneur and to live on my own terms. My identity as a lazy, badly behaved and mischievous kid in school had cemented itself, and I began to think that that's just how I was. Maybe I am just lazy, disruptive, and subpar in everything that I try, even outside of school. I basically lost confidence in my own decision making. I didn't trust that I was making the right decision. But again, deep down during school times, I did try to pursue this interest in entrepreneurship. I had a small group of friends that were also into business. We talked about our ideas, we took action. You know, I was into dropshipping and selling phones. Another was into Amazon FBA and crypto, and another was into flipping shoes. You know, I tried to have exposure to like-minded people, but ultimately the struggle between prioritizing my education and working on my businesses, it got the better of me. I couldn't commit to the uncertainty of entrepreneurship. It felt like I was half-assing both school and business. I wasn't getting anywhere. I had genuinely lost faith in myself. I didn't think I could do it, and so I took the easier route of trying to do well in school and to get a decent corporate career for myself. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Pursuing your education is excellent. It's a standard for a reason. But what I'm saying is it wasn't what I truly wanted. It wasn't my own free choice. I wasn't willingly waking up every day to get closer towards my goal. I was merely being dragged along. I was merely surviving. Basically, I had succumbed to my doubts. I was insecure in my own judgment, and I'd given up on the entrepreneurial journey. And so in fear, I started taking school a bit more seriously. And again, I wasn't working hard. I didn't have that innate desire or motivation to do well because I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't see the point in all of this. It wasn't in good faith. I wasn't focused. I didn't have faith in the academic path either. I was really half-baked, lukewarm, stuck halfway between what I deep down wanted to do but had been conditioned to be scared away from, and between what my school, family and culture expected of me. You know, in trying to become an entrepreneur, I was fighting years, over a decade of academic and cultural programming, years of being on a conveyor belt, years of constant tests, pressure, stress and comparison, years of being force-fed a path and fear-mongered into a state of anxious paralysis, a state where you doubt your past decisions, you worry about your ability to handle the future, and you slowly lose trust in your own judgment and core character. And to fast forward a bit, I lived in this state of uncertainty for a few years after I put business on pause. From about year 10 all the way to my first year of university, from around ages 15 to 19, I'd given in. And I'll try and keep the details light, but it was the build-up of years of not knowing who I was, years of low self-confidence, of chronic anxiety and uncertainty, and eventually it led to me kind of shutting down from the world. I was just on BS, literally. I say this all the time, that up until a few years ago, I really was living life on autopilot. But these years especially, these teenage years after I quit my entrepreneurial journey, were even more empty and robotic. I kind of just operated. I wasn't thinking about the future, I wasn't planning, I was too anxious to really take action on anything that I wanted. And to be honest, I didn't know what I wanted in the first place. I wasn't going out, I wasn't doing things, I wasn't making experiences or doing sports, and I most definitely wasn't being social. And it's easy to see someone talk about being stuck like this and to think to yourself that, oh, that's nothing, the problems are just in your head. Think about the people with real immediate struggle. And I used to think like that too, but that was before real mental struggle and doubt hit me personally. And if you think like that, it means that so far in your life, your upbringing, culture and experiences have given you the internal confidence and mental frameworks needed to face challenges without them overwhelming you, without them slowly poisoning your self-image and paralyzing you. And I'm not saying that some people are just inherently weaker than others. The point is that a lot of people simply didn't grow up with these same tools. It's more often than not the result of being part of a toxic and pressurized culture. Some people seem to thrive longer than others, but ultimately everybody's gonna crash someday. You We weren't really taught how to trust ourselves or how to think independently, how to be critical or how to recover from doubt, only how to comply, perform and move on to the next checkpoint. And so when uncertainty starts to boil over, when you start to approach the final straw, it doesn't just feel like a challenge, it feels more like an identity collapse. It's a bit of a hot take, but willpower and grit, in my opinion, is criminally overrated. It will only take you so far. It's so easy to say, just as a blanket statement, that this person didn't succeed because they lack discipline and that sometimes you need to just grit your teeth and roll with the punches. But in my opinion, this is a widespread fallacy, a myth that completely disregards the true simple secret of entrepreneurship, the secret of resilience, the secret of success itself. And of course, we do need discipline. We need to have some sort of willpower. But we aren't drones. We aren't slaves. We need to have an idea of what the goal is. We need to have an understanding on a deeper, intricate level of what we're working towards. Especially when you're already in a vulnerable mental state. Some people can just bite down on their gumshoes, get up every day, be in sleep deprived and just hustle. Hustle culture, boom, 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 bish, bash, bosh. But this won't work for you if you question things, if you're a thinker, if you need to understand what it is that you're working on. But more often than not, that grind is very short-lived. And even more so if the grind is something more intellectually demanding. You can't just mindlessly muscle your way through an intricate task. Sometimes in business you need to pause, plan and re-attack the goal from a different angle. The root cause of burnout is working towards a goal where you don't know where your place is. The reason why people get burnt out is because they don't understand what they're working towards. They don't know what the future holds. It's uncertain and they don't feel a sense of attachment. They don't feel a spiritual connection to what they're working on. The hustle culture approach is flawed. It's not sustainable. And I'll never tell you what you can and can't do, but more than likely you're probably going to burn out. Grinding through life can work, sure, but your quality of work and all other aspects of your life are negatively affected. Think about that one parent that spent all their time working and only had the time to see you maybe 1 or 2 days max a week. Think of those cave-dwelling workaholics that spend all day in their room and have pale, withered skin and atrophied muscles. If you subscribe to hustle culture, moderation and work-life balance does not exist. You would have to be extreme in your hours and grind or you'll be outcompeted. This is hustle culture. This is true. I don't deny it. But what I'm saying is there's an alternative option to the quote-unquote grind. There's another way to be successful. You can be successful without having to sacrifice your mental health, without having to work all day and be a one-dimensional person. There's a proven and innately human, natural way to work towards your goals and become successful in business, work, and life in general. It's scary because I feel like it's almost becoming forgotten in this new age of hustle and work culture. I truly believe that the real secret is relentless, sustainable, healthy consistency coupled with emotional and spiritual intelligence. And this isn't some airy-fairy wishy-washy nonsense. I'm not one for BS. I only cover proven systems around here. Again, this is another hot take, but this road, this entrepreneurial journey is a spiritual one, so much more than it seems. Becoming an entrepreneur, a person who forgoes the regular path, who decides to pass on comfort, assurance, this takes faith, this takes intelligence, insight, and careful planning. You won't find success in following a set schedule of working as many hours a day as possible, in grinding through uncertainty just because you know that there's a lot of competition. You won't find success in being fear-mongered into thinking that you need to get rich as soon as possible. This is because if you work non-stop, you lose sight of your goal. In fact, you never had sight of your goal. In subscribing to this hustle, you're being fueled off of negative emotion, off of doubt and insecurity. Bro, this is some literal dark side Sith Lord type of shit. You are living off of negative thoughts. You're telling yourself that if I fail, it means I'm not good enough, or I must work, I must outcompete the competition because everyone else is going to get rich and I'm going to be left behind. You should not approach business, you should not approach the entrepreneurial road through a lens of scarcity, through a lens of doubt. In my opinion, you need to approach your development in a healthy, light side type of way. And stay with me now. For the vast majority of human history, we have lived with a completely different relationship with work, time and finance. The idea of long, hard hours, constant comparison, fear and scarcity is quite a new and modern thing in many ways. The innately natural way that we as humans evolved to work during a given day and the way that we used to approach our goals and targets long term has been lost over time. I don't want to get too into this, but to give you the headline, as humans we have evolved for periods of intense focused work, followed by periods of full, present leisure and social time. I want you to think to caveman days. I want you to think to the hunter-gatherer, even into the agricultural era. Early humans worked a lot less hours than we do in the modern era. Historic and present day hunter-gatherers work between 15 to 25 hours per week, or even sometimes just 2 to 3 days, and then they'll have the rest of the week as leisure time to simply live with the rest of their communities. Society was optimized for social bonding, leisure, ritual, and rest. And even into the agricultural era, farmers did work more hours than the hunter-gatherers, yeah. Farming does require intense regular labor, but farmers still had massive seasonal breaks. They will be on holiday for over half of the year, for winter, days of bad weather, and seasonal and religious holidays. And so even during this agricultural era, farmers worked 40 to 60% less than modern humans do today. Contrast this more optimized and healthy framework of work to the modern day, to the Industrial Revolution into modern office work. And side note, the modern day isn't as bad as the Industrial Revolution era. I'm not even going to try and argue that. During the Industrial era, 70 to 100 hour work weeks were standard, 6 to 7 days a week, with very little holiday or time off. The Industrial Revolution was the true beginning of burnout. This was the point where life itself started to become fully centered around work. People abandoned their families' legacies. People left their families' farms and moved into cities to work in factories for some mega corporation that didn't know or care about them. You know, this was the point where people had lost the sense of community, the sense of ownership and autonomy over their work that early humans and even agricultural workers had. People were no longer working towards a communal or personal goal. People aren't physically building their house or digging a well or even tending to the environment. We aren't growing our food with our hands, food that will feed us, our families, friends, and our communities. We don't have enough time in the mornings to spend in the sun and to get some quality fresh air before completing our focused work for the day. We don't finish our days with a fully present afternoon, evening, and night of leisure, time to fully commit to bonding with our communities, families, and friends. We don't have time to recharge and unwind effectively and fully, to remind ourselves of the true reasons that we are building in the first place. Nowadays, work-life balance is almost becoming non-existent. We don't even realize this. We don't realize what's slipping away from us. We are starting to adopt a new norm of work within the workplace and business alike. There is constant communication required, emails, notifications, calls, and meetings. You know, there are countless mental demands that are placed upon you that end up leaking into your free time. You end up taking back homework from both school and work, even when you clock out for the day. To be honest, there is no clocking out. Physical exhaustion is low, but mentally people are drained, exhausted, and severely burnt out. And this is because we can no longer fully disconnect from work. You know, when a farmer comes home for the day, he is home until the next working day. There is no being called back for an hour. There are no meetings, no text messages or presentations that he needs to prepare or memorize for the next day. You know, nowadays people are just constantly connected to their jobs. You may be getting paid 40 hours, but in reality you'll feel like you're working 70, 60 hours in total. There are no real seasonal breaks or even hard boundaries. People don't feel off even when they are actually off. You're always accessible to your boss. Technology, interconnectedness, and a lack of fully present free time is a part of why depression, anxiety, and burnout are historical all-time highs. And this unnatural work-life norm is seeping into all avenues of modern human culture, even into the entrepreneurial lifestyle, even into business. You know, to a young version of me, becoming an entrepreneur felt like the modern day dream. This was what attracted me, the possibility of working on a venture that I was building with my own hands, on my own accord and on my own time. The possibility to truly be myself, to not be watered down and to be atrophied by the workplace. Becoming an entrepreneur was a chance to develop and be experimentational and to not lose my creative and unique flair that we all do have as human beings. But unfortunately, the ability to be creative, to think outside of the box, to think independently is being whittled down by a school and the workplace. You know, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. The person who shows their uniqueness, the person who deviates from the norm, is forced to either conform or face difficulty. Modern day society forces group harmony over nurturing individuality. And so how can you nurture, how can you develop your character to level up your skill set? How can you gain the resilience, confidence, and faith to pursue your own path with chest? To learn to swim against the current and truly carve out a life on your own accord, you have to take calculated risk. Take that leap of faith. And so for me, that was dropping out of university and pursuing the business that I truly wanted to pursue. Follow your instinct, follow what your gut tells you. And now that I had dropped out, now because I was at home all day working on my business, I decided to take exercise and physical well-being more seriously. I started taking my martial arts training a lot more seriously. You know, I mentioned it a few times on this channel at this point, but I so highly believe in learning a martial art. For me, it gave me such a solid structure of being able to complete my focused work during the day and then to reward myself by leaving for kickboxing in the evenings. And again, this is the light side approach. We want to be well-rounded. We want to be physically strong and capable, mentally resilient, disciplined, fit, intelligent, knowledgeable, and charismatic. And what I want people to realize, what not enough people understand, is that training a martial art quite literally develops all of these traits. Learning a martial art makes you a well-rounded person, and I'm not exaggerating at all. Learning a discipline like this, it changes how you carry yourself through life. You learn how to stay calm under pressure, how to show up even when you don't feel like it. You learn humility, you learn respect, and controlled confidence. You get fitter, stronger, and sharper. That's both mentally and physically. I could honestly make an entire video just talking about how martial arts transforms people, and I probably will at some point. But for now, understand this: when you get into shape, everything in your life improves. Your posture and confidence increases, your energy levels go up, you speak louder, you assert yourself more confidently, you start to take yourself more seriously, and naturally other people do too. And that alone creates a massive trickle-down effect. You communicate better, you feel more capable, you're more willing to take risks, you stop shrinking yourself in conversations. And on top of that, a gym or martial arts school becomes a powerful social hub, a place outside of work and home where you can consistently show up and build relationships. You surround yourself with disciplined, like-minded people. And this is one of the most important parts. This is why I'm including it on this light side journey to success. You know, nowadays so many people feel isolated and stuck online and disconnected from real communities. And in training a martial art, or even just doing a sport, attending a club, being social, being part of a third space, you're not just training your body, you're plugging yourself into an environment of growth. And also importantly, you're learning to fight, you're learning how to defend yourself. And this is a valuable self-defense skill. It's very valuable for your confidence. You know, once you build this physical foundation, strength, discipline, confidence, community, everything else becomes easier to stack on top. And this is what I was talking about with the early human stuff, with the hunter-gatherer era and the agricultural era. Success is found in discipline, community, and resilience. And this all comes with learning a martial art. And while you're getting stronger physically, while you're gaining confidence in the gym, while you're being social and creating meaningful bonds with others, you will start to see the light. You will start to understand what I'm getting at here. You will start to see that growth through peace and positivity is actually possible. It's not just some airy-fairy nonsense. You don't need to beat yourself up to develop as a person. You then might start to look at the people around you. Your relationship with your job might change. Perhaps you no longer see your job through the lens of scarcity and vulnerability. You know, if you're young and have no kids, no mortgage, especially if you don't pay rent, if your job is not directly helping you build your business, or if it's not helping you get closer to your true goal, you might start to think about whether it has a place in the new life that you are now building. At least take a breather, take a week off, and approach your work in a more healthy and balanced way. And again, this is taken as so controversial in today's day and age because hustle culture has leaked too far into all aspects of our modern culture. But to build something meaningful, to build a great foundation, to build your business, you need to build on a sustainable and healthy foundation and to take calculated risks. If your job isn't directly contributing towards your goals and is causing you unnecessary headache, stress, and anxiety, find a way to take holiday leave, reduce your hours, and when you come back, go part-time or straight up leave. You know, if you're going to be working while you build your business, at least try your very best to do a relatively chill, less mentally demanding job. Your new job may even be more physically demanding, but as long as you can find more peace and are less drained and mentally absorbed by your work, this is going to help you build towards the goal that actually matters. Take a pay cut. If you know your job isn't your main goal, if you want to build a business, take a pay cut. Get a more simple, low-paying job. It could be retail, warehouse, construction even. You want to make enough to get by, but you don't want to be absorbed by this new job. but this isn't going to be your career. You know, you want to take risks and invest in the asset that is your business, that is your career. You don't want to be too absorbed by a job, because this isn't what is going to take you towards your goal. You don't want to be in the golden handcuffs. You don't want to be in a situation where you're getting paid and you're doing pretty well, but you're not doing well enough to retire and to live on a yacht. You know, where you have a decent, well-paid salary, but you don't have enough time to build something that could potentially earn you more than the 9 to 5. And to be able to do this is a luxury. I do admit the luxury to have faith in your path, to have the right mental framework and mental health to trust your decision making, the ability to detach from your ego and to learn to be a student of the game, to understand that you have a whole mountain ahead of you to conquer and you're only just learning to walk. And this is why I so strongly suggest learning a martial art or combat sport, because you need to develop your mind, body and soul to begin to take on this journey. Don't let any influencer make you think that this is going to be easy. You need to work to get rid of your ego. We don't want to approach this from a place of arrogance, fear or scarcity, a dark side kind of approach. And unfortunately, this sort of dark side approach, an approach that taps into your negative emotions, it can work. But because you've clicked on and gotten so far into this video, I already know that you have somewhat resonated with my story and you're looking for more. You have tried many times and you're looking for another way to hit your goals. So what I'm saying is you need to be holistic in how you approach entrepreneurship. You need to become well-rounded. You need to be strong, to stand your ground, to assert yourself in negotiations and stick up for yourself. You need to be mentally resilient and disciplined, to stick to committing on working on building your business every day. You need to be intelligent and rational, to work smart, to work effectively, and to cut out the fluff. You need to be insightful and in tune with your emotions, to understand when and why you are frustrated, and to understand how to overcome obstacles and difficulty. You need the maturity and emotional understanding to understand when it's time to take a break or to stop working for the day. You need to be in tune to identify market trends, to spot gaps in the market, to see a new, unique vision that could take your business to the next level. And this, what it takes to become a successful entrepreneur, this comes with being well-rounded. This comes with time, consistency, and sticking to your path and building with healthy, positive discipline. Commit to learning your martial art. Commit to working on your business every day, to mastering the ins and outs. Commit to taking time out to socialize, to recharge, and to go again tomorrow. You know, work part-time if you have to. Do freelance work to get by, but do not wear the golden handcuffs. Do not become mentally absorbed by a career that pays you well but takes away from your true goal. Remember what you want from this life and take time out to reflect on how your journey is going. What went well and where can you improve? Again, really try to embody the light side approach. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be motivated by fear. Regularly ground yourself. Understand that you're playing the long game here. You know, you're working part-time or at a chill job, so you're getting by. You're working slowly. You're working slowly but surely on your business. And with time and consistency, you will bear the fruits of your labor. To be an entrepreneur is to take risks, to live stoically within a world of uncertainty, yet to have strong faith in your path and confidence in your abilities, so that doubts go through one ear and out the other, because you know that you're doing the work every day. You know you're being consistent, and with time, you know you will be where you want to be. You surround yourself with like-minded, positive people and don't take in any of the doubts. Don't let people's fears poison you and tear down your confidence. Don't let what happened to my teen self happen to you. You build the mental and physical, emotional strength required to stand strong in the face of adversity and to keep on pushing, not through fear, but by faith and relentless positive effort. But yeah, this was a long video, very long video, a lot longer than usual. And if you found this useful, take it seriously. If you want more content like this, practical, no hype breakdowns on money, discipline, and long-term thinking, consider subscribing. I'm documenting what works, what doesn't, and how to build real financial stability over time. And remember, the goal is not to get lucky, it's to build a system that makes success inevitable, because clarity beats motivation every time.